talk to us first about how you handled it better and what your plans are for returns to investors.
Well, good morning, and thanks for having me on the show. Today, Swedbank delivered another strong quarter in uncertain times, and that feels very good. We have a return on equity of 14.3%. And of course, we have also a lot of capital. So in the board now, there are discussions, and we are a bank that are proud to give out dividends, but of course we're following what the authorities says, and we're following the economic developments from the pandemic.
Jens, on that subject, good morning to you. You say you want to pay a dividend, but you have to pay attention to what the authorities say. Do you have any guidance, any conversations with authorities that give you a sense of the timing as to when you might be able to pay one?
No, we have no such guidance. We're following the development, we're listening to the authorities, we're also seeing what happened with the economic cycle.
What do you think about the various liquidity programs? And I ask because, from central banks, and I ask because you participated in some of those, but you didn't really need to. So what are you doing to kind of go along with the program here in terms of central bank liquidity programs?
Well, that's correct. We used the programs by the government and the central bank because we felt it was the right thing to do, but we have a very good liquidity situation. But on overall, I must say I'm impressed by how not only the Swedish authorities, but the authorities all around the world has handled the economic consequences of the pandemic. We learned a lot from the financial recession.
Yes, indeed.
Jens, the reason I ask is because it seems like you've played very well by the rules thus far. But at some point, you've got to go ahead and reward investors who have stuck with you. As it seems like you're past the worst of it, why isn't now a time to start thinking about it and telling us about a dividend reward?
Well, I think it's important. We are a bank that likes to give out dividends. We have to think about the stakeholders in society, and people have invested in us, so we want to give back dividends. But there's still uncertainties, and therefore we're following what the authorities are saying, and we're following the economic development from the pandemic.
Let me ask you about the loan loss story and the evolution of that then, Jens. Your loan losses in the third quarter, 425 million kronor. That was almost half what analysts had expected it to be. Obviously, you don't know why they came to their conclusions, but what has been better in the last quarter, do you think, than many had anticipated?
Well, we try to really follow the rules and the spirit of IFRS 9. So what we did in the first quarter, we took loan loss provisions of 2 billion, and then in the second quarter of 1 billion. Then when we look at the economic development, it actually looks better. So we're actually supposed to release some of the sort of provisions. But we felt that in these uncertain times, it would have been the wrong thing to do. So therefore, we ended up with 425 million in loan loss provisions for this quarter.
Can you tell us which sectors surprised you, Jens? Where did you see better performance than you had expected?
Well, we looked through our whole portfolio. We talked with all sort of companies that we have lent out money to. And what struck me was that the number of affected sectors went down quite dramatically. But we have an exposure to the oil-producing sector, mainly in Norway, and that has been a sector that's been hit a lot by the low oil prices.
Are you concerned about the housing markets in the markets you operate in then, Jens? We've heard from some analysts about a weakening local housing market in your market, and indeed perhaps mortgage lending could be dampened if consumers are nervous about the future. What's the story in housing?
Well, the story of housing in Sweden is we do not see it. On the opposite, we see a strong housing market. And we are there, and we've sort of back to our position. We're a strong mortgage supplier, and we want to be in that space.